Hi, everyone. So excited to be here again, especially when we have Beverly Glazer, who's here every Tuesday with me, and our special guest, Dr. Debra Dupree, who's been with us before and couldn't wait to have her back and look forward to a outstanding value-added conversation. Chat's wide open, and we depend on chat to make us as relevant as directed as possible. So feel free to comment, make yourself known, be recognized, and share value. And with that, I'll turn it over to Beverly really quick and then to Dr. Debra, and we'll get the show going. Beverly.
Okay, first of all, hi everybody. And what Don was just saying about the chat, we need you guys in the chat because this isn't only about us, although we love to talk to each other. This is about what you have to say too, and we bounce off that as well. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, by the way, if you don't know who I am or what I do, I'm Beverly Glazer, and sometimes I'm a coach, a therapist, a consultant, you name it. I'm the person kind of behind the scenes that connects the missing links with who you are, where you want to go, and what is kind of going wrong, but even making your life, which can be good, even better. So that's what I do. And we are really excited because I know Dr. Debra and we've worked together before and she's awesome. And so you go, girl, you tell us.
Well, thank you, Don and Beverly. I'm so delighted to be back here again. And, I was just reflecting, Beverly, as you were talking about, oh my goodness, we have seen a lot of change again in the last few weeks in the early 2024. And I think that says a lot to the significant role that all of us play in our daily lives and in the lives of others. Like you, Beverly, I come from a mental health background, but sometimes I'm a mediator, sometimes I'm a coach, sometimes I'm an educator, and sometimes I'm just a psychologist, trying to help people figure things out. And I am passionate about helping people navigate through conflicts in their life because I've just seen so many people stuck. And right now, and I don't mean to get political, but right now there's a lot going on, in terms of the role of women. And just reflecting on an interview I saw with our Vice President Kamala Harris yesterday on the Drew Barrymore show in New York. And it was interesting. It was interesting to see the influences that we've experienced that continue to shape us and that continue to shape the women coming up and forward into leadership of the future.
Yeah.
Well, that's outstanding, and it's so important to have many hats today to serve different groups in a more personalized way that makes it more relevant and valuable for everybody. I know we chose growth as a subtopic to women's empowerment, and there's so much that can be done to help oneself and help others grow in a more evolved fashion that lends itself to more sustainable success and happiness. And I think that's one of the goals with success is to find happiness. With that, when you're talking about happy, you're also talking about Carrie. I read a book about colors. It blew me away. So always nice to start off with a little bit of levity. And Carrie's always got a handy joke in his back pocket, waiting for an audience. So thank you so much, Carrie. And with that, Beverly, I know you've been on a journey of growth and evolution for a very long time. Uh, how do you apply growth to yourself and your practice?
Well, my feeling is exactly the quote that William Burroughs has said is if you're not growing, you're dying. And I believe that emphatically that that is growth. Once you reach a certain level, if you're complacent in that level, you're going to go downhill. And that's what growth is. We have to realize that we're continually growing and we're continually changing, and not to fear that and not to be complacent with it. And to get back to what you were saying also, Deborah, was women now are coming to ourselves. And it sounds like such a platitude, but it's really not. I was speaking to a woman the other day, and I'm speaking to women all the time. And it's like, now is our time. I am, particularly as an older woman, where you may have been restricted in your career, or in the advantages that you may have thought that you couldn't have, perhaps because you were busy taking care of family or taking care of others or whatever it is. But now it's a completely different mindset, and older women are starting to say, it is my time. I can grow. And where do you even start? And that's, of course, where I come in. A lot of people come and ask me advice for that, because it's like, where do you start? Well, you start within yourself. What do you like to do? Who are you? And when I ask that question to people who've high achievers, right, the first thing they will say, well, I'm a doctor, I'm a this, I'm a that, that is not who you are. This is what you do. These are your labels. And that is why I'm segueing here. I love my podcast, because we take our hats off and we are talking as humans, as women. And it's so easy to put those masks on and hide behind the labels. And now women are getting real, and they're saying, we want more. We matter. And that's what growth is. It's like, not that you don't love your grandchildren, not that you don't love your family, not that you don't love your life. No, it's like, what's for you? What's for us? And that's the growth, because if you don't grow, you die. And so back to your question, Dawn, why am I growing? Because I will shrivel up and die. So help me. Just ask my husband. I will be an ugly person. Okay. So that's why I continue to do what I do. And I try to learn more, and I try to just grow. It's not for anyone else. It's personal. It's for myself,
Well, that's so vital, because, you win and then you win again when you project that to others, and you get continuing sustainable benefits that get derived, and that reinforces your interest in continuing your journey towards evolution. And today there's so much information and knowledge at your fingertips that all you need is good questions, in order to get quality answers, and knowing how to create disciplines of learning, of growing, of making it part of your everyday menu of activities is so important. I know Debra's been so essential in the growth process for others, speaking and sharing. So, how have you seen your journey, Debra?
Well, thanks for asking. And I'm also reflecting on Carrie's comment in the chat box too. So I'm going to respond in both ways. I think one of the things, fortunately, out of unfortunate circumstances while I was growing up, I realized quite young that I'm the only one that can make a difference in what I'm doing. I could, bemoan my family upbringing. I could bemoan our socioeconomic status. I could bemoan that I grew up where I did. But the reality is that only I can make a difference in where my life goes forward. So I've really embraced the concept of I am the architect of my life. And I also use the momentum that out of adversity comes opportunity. Okay, I may have to hit rock bottom sometimes or feel pretty low, but say, okay, well, where do I go from here now? And so I have a sense, a vision of moving forward in life. If I don't like what I have, I can make choices and design things in a way that keeps me moving forward. And so one of the questions I oftentimes present to my clients when they're feeling, oh, what is going on, and I just feel sort of stuck, like Carrie mentioned, is like, well, where are you right now? What's one thing that you can do in the immediate or within the day that will help nudge you up? And I use the scale of 0 to 10 a lot, in terms of 10 being the best and 0 being the worst. And what can I do to move myself up, even half a point? And maybe it might be going to take a walk on the beach. Maybe it might be I'm going to go take a nap, whatever that might be. But what's one thing I can do for myself right now that I will feel better having done? And I share with you too that a lot of people think motivation comes externally. How do I motivate my employees? How do I motivate you, Don? How do I motivate you, Beverly? But quite frankly, motivation is that internal sense. And so what can I do then to stimulate that motivation within you? By what I do and how I show up and how I engage with you. But that also, we have to come back to ourselves. As Beverly said, it starts within ourselves. What can I do to motivate myself? What can I do to stimulate that excitement and enthusiasm? And meanwhile, we get the brain chemicals going and feel good. Oxytocin, not Oxycontin, oxytocin. I feel good.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
well, you make so many quality points, both Beverly and Debra, because it does take thought and it takes some discipline, but it also takes self-care.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know when to slow down. You got to know when to pause. Sometimes you got to put it in reverse and start fresh again. But that's the fun of it. Every day is a new day. Every day you face new challenges and opportunities. And it's really, what side of the street do you want to be on? And how active do you want to be? But also, in this day and age with live streams and LinkedIn, there's huge opportunities to reach large, relevant communities just through communication, just by sharing what you're doing. Because a lot of people can connect the dots. Once they get a idea, and I think that's where more people need to specialize and niche their message, because you don't want to gather a big net and then have to filter and sort afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Better off being as transparent, as authentic as possible, and people come for you and then your message. They might hear your message first, but you're the reason they're going to come back. You're the reason they're going to share and refer. So, there is a bigger picture that can develop if you allow it. And people have to really get into the learning phase in anticipation of the earning stage, right? You need to be good enough. You need to show up and bring value every time, because people also have so many choices where they can get their information from, who they can work with, and that's so vital. So, Beverly, what are you doing? And why don't you share your podcast and when it is? It's important
Sure.
for everybody to get
I sure will, but even before I share it, which is aging with purpose and passion, but even before I share that, I want to go back to I have hit the wall. Carrie, okay? Carrie comes all the time on Tuesday. I think he's here practically every day, okay? And that is wonderful, and I want to thank you, Carrie, okay? We all hit the wall, all of us. And when we try and we try, and this way doesn't work and that way doesn't work, we've hit a wall. The point is, Carrie, you're not giving up. The point is also, this is where community comes in, much to your point, Dawn, that there are communities out there that can help you. And back to your point also, Debra, if you can't go this way, you can go this way. And that you are responsible for your own happiness. However, you can get help, you can reach out. And that makes all the difference in the world, because all of us human beings hit the wall. We do.
Mhm.
And sometimes we say, you know, I cannot do this. What is going on? You know, and I'm just thinking how wonderful. I belong to so many communities, and a lot of them are online. And one of the communities, you know which one, Dawn, is the Golden Connections online.
Mhm.
Well, I was in a meeting there of all these women, and they're all over 55, and it's a wonderful connective group. And I was participating, or so I thought. And then one of the members actually reached out afterwards and said, Beverly, are you okay? And that was just so nice.
Mhm.
And why is it so nice? Because, hey, I'm Beverly. I'm always okay, right? People come to me for help. People come and ask me questions. I'm always there for everybody else. But it's so nice to have somebody else say, are you okay? And I was.
Mhm.
It's just that I was going to go on my podcast after that. And I was considering how my wires were put together to make sure I don't totally have a bust out of this, right? So my head wasn't 100% in it, but somebody noticed. And that's the thing, okay? That's what happens in community. You're not in your own head. You can reach out to somebody. How was your day? Everybody says, fine. But is that true? Okay. And people that know you know, you're not fine.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you have it too when I'm talking to people and they say to me, fine. And I say, come on, you're talking to me now. And then they're looking fine. They're looking absolutely amazing. But you could just kind of see that something's a little off. And as they talk, things go down. And so, Carrie, you may have hit the wall, but you're not down. You're just flat a bit. Okay. And so you're reaching out here. Great. I want you to do what Debra said. What can you do? Who didn't you talk to? What can you do differently? Because what you're doing the same isn't working. So do something different. And that's the change. Whenever we do something different, something happens, and that's risk taking. So think about what you can do, not just the wall. And I want to thank you for reaching out and being here all the time. Thank you, Carrie, and for making us laugh all the time. Thank you.
Well, that's so kind and generous of you, but I know authentic as it relates to everybody because we are one circle. And by sharing, we all learn together, we all can teach each other together. And I think it's that togetherness that makes for a safe environment where people can really express their true feelings, not minimize them or just put a little bit of a foot in the water, which is so important. We've got some new people I haven't seen. We've got Paulino here, who is from Angola. Uh, and we've got Dennis here, who, just like Carrie, is an everyday supporter. And, you know, we all learn together. And over enough of these shows, you pick up little elements that are important from Beverly, from Debra, from everybody in the audience. And you don't even know that you're integrating it in your thought process, in some sayings or that you picked up and say, hey, that was pretty cool for me. It might be cool for people like me. And, you know, the other element is to stay fresh, not just to grow larger, but to grow deeper, you know, and have a little bit more richness. Christine is here. Christine has been with us since the beginning. If you don't know Christine, you should. This is a great
Mhm.
time to build your network, especially with like minded people. I tell everybody, Christine uh, juggles so many balls in the air. She's a mother, she's a corporate uh, leader. She's just finishing up her MBA, if she hasn't already, and she still has time for everybody else. So Christine says, Gary or Carrie, have you been updating your skills to adjust today's market? you don't have the dollars now, you can find so much free information on YouTube and other platforms. And, start 1 foot at a time and take it in a comfortable level. Because again, sustainable is so important. You don't want to get back to square one after you've taken a journey where you can just continue to build on it. And we always say here, if you can't do it, could we do it? And could we help you do it? So you're never alone. It's just the outreach that's important. Here we have a LinkedIn user. I would think it might be Jason Gerardo, who's here every other Wednesday and part of the community. And also says, Carrie, I have been, Christina, I've been attempting to update my skills. I will have to see what I can do different. Well, it never hurts to switch. Never hurts to try something new. You can always go back to yesterday, tomorrow, if what you tried new today doesn't work. But I find that most of the time when you go forward, you don't go backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really about building momentum and having excitement. And excitement is the hope for a better day tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because you're never on top all the time, and you shouldn't always be on the bottom all the time. So it's never as good as you think it is, and it's never as bad as you think it is either. And you are the main ingredient. Dennis says, agree, take a risk, and a twist to learn and earn. Christine says, MBA graduation is this Saturday, May 4th. Well, congratulations to you. I know how hard you worked. I was there in the beginning when you chose to go forward with it, and you had some trepidation, but perseverance has guided you through. So proud of you and so proud of so many others. Carl's here as a Don Cohen groupie. Good morning. Carl just did his show. He actually had Dave Snell on today. And Carl is into instant funding. I believe I get it all wrong. And he has a show preceding me every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Eastern. My show comes on at 11. Then Harvey's show, the franchise show, comes on at 12 Eastern. And then Kelly's show comes on at 1 Eastern. The Awesome Journey with Christy. So 4 shows in a row. We're all part of the same collaboration group that's been essential in knowledge sharing and support, just like today. Carl having Dave on. The other day I saw where Con referred a few people to Kelly. And, things are starting to work. Beverly's helping others. And, when you have 6 or 7 people on the same track, learning together, sharing together, growing together, you're never alone. And I think loneliness and being in a vacuum is what creates loops in people's minds that makes them quit because they're not getting new information. They're not getting some fresh air. Here's Omar, another good friend. Actually, I'm going to be working with Omar to create some questions for a Zoom party show. He was on the show last week with another wonderful lady, Xana, who is probably coming back. She's just great people that are getting attracted to what we're doing. So thank you, Omar. Carl comes back with not to leave out the most important people. Good morning, Beverly and Debra. And Carl's such a gentleman in all the best ways. He's always upbeat. He's always positive, and he's always humble. And I think humility goes a long way for getting people to align with you. Lucinda's here. I'm glad to be here following Beverly. Thank you for this warm conversation. Well, thank you, Lucinda. So happy you could make it. Look forward to talking with you in the future. Always love to reach out to the audience. Dennis says, agree, we like to be liked, and we like to learn from your show going forward and not backwards, for sure. And here's the other half of today's show, Dave Snell, another wonderful gentleman, helping veterans transition to the military, but also working in cybersecurity, private investigation. Everybody I'm talking about, I have gotten to know, learn, and trust with, and I highly recommend everybody to make a connection with. So, Deborah, I know it's been a little bit of a time, but we got so many comments. I'm sure
Yeah.
because we encouraged it, people started to take action. So, what's your thoughts now?
Yeah, I'm just so impressed, by the community of people that follow the show, and they're warm and generous and supportive comments, and being there for one another. And that's really, what we as human beings need and want, is to feel connected, to feel supported, to feel acknowledged. And with that, it's to pay attention to the nuances too. And I like what Beverly had to say, is that somebody sort of picked up on, but how are you doing, Beverly? And I would like to share, I came up with an acronym for FINE. I'm fine. It's like, okay, well, that's false information needing more explanation, you know? And so, it just begs, when somebody says the word fine, it's like, okay, what's happening for you? Let's have a conversation. And so encouraging people to reach out. I think there's too often a tendency of pulling back, because of so much uncertainty going on in the world. But that's where we can bring certainty to our worlds by engaging, connecting, being part of communities like this. And I like to say, it's important to always learn, live it, and then keep growing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrific. I love your acronym. And most people just need a different way of hearing or understanding something because they have these uh, thoughts and ideas that they may have adopted early on and maybe don't even know where they came from, but becomes part of who they are. And sometimes things aren't, relevant anymore. Some
Mhm.
things are never relevant, but because an uncle might have said something or something got picked up somewhere, you just continue to carry it. And I think reflection is so important. Review is so important. So many people forget they have a neutral and a reverse gear,
Yeah.
right? They're just pull and drive with their pedal down, right? And they're going as fast as they can, as hard as they can, but without a lot of good direction, without a lot of adjustment as you go, and the ability to pivot is so much more important today.
Yeah.
Is people used to get into careers and it was like 30 years, get your gold watch
Yeah.
yourself, you'll be okay. Today, no matter who you're working for uh, and who's signing the check, you're working for yourself because
Mhm.
of the uncertainty, because of the lack of loyalty. And I think, we talk about the big world, but it's important to engineer your small world, right? Because if you can get 6, 7, 8 people who are with you, who are, supporting you all the time, whether Christine's here or Dave's here, I'm always waiting to see how did it work out? Is it going in your direction? What can we do together? Life is so short. There's no time to waste, especially when you can bring value and happiness to yourself. And I think that's so important. Dennis comes back with agree, let's stay together regardless of the weather. And then also says, agree, it is fine to define and a much better side than to divide. Dennis is one of the rare individuals who's had his own company for 49 years out in
Mhm.
Colorado, heating and air conditioning. And you got to give someone credit, not because of 49 years, but they had to change 7, 8, 10 times
Yeah.
to be relevant. There had to be a point where they saw the future and decided to make the move ahead of time. And time waits for nobody, right? And you can't wait on time. So the other element, I think, to growth is being proactive. You can wait for something to happen, or you could make something happen. And the nice thing about making something happen, it's personalized. You chose how to build it instead of
Mhm.
someone giving you the blueprint and said, go to work now. So Beverly, so much to think about and talk about.
And to also lose your thoughts as and so, but I just found myself again. Okay, and I'm focused. Everything that you said makes so much sense, but I'm going back to growth. And I'm going back to the feeling of being stuck. The stuckness is what is next. And I'm going back to women and stuck. What is so wonderful now when I'm speaking to women all over the world, it's we all now see potential for ourselves, and we don't have to finish the job. And I'm seeing Lucinda in the comments, and I thank you, Lucinda. Lucinda is a medical doctor, okay? And I'm bringing you up, Lucinda, because this is marvelous, okay? You, and I have to say, so many of us, okay, have more than one career. We say, okay, I want to stop this. I want to go into this. Now I want to help more people in a different way. And so I'm bringing you up here because I feel, much like myself, I could have shut my office when COVID happened and said, oh, yay, I'm retired. But you know what? Online was always calling for me, because if I want to help people, this is what I can now do. And I'm restricted in my office, not just talking to people one-on-one or going to speak in a conference where, yes, I'm meeting people, but it's more for me than it is really working with people. So online gives me the opportunity to meet so many wonderful people. And Lucinda, you're one of them. And so many women who are out there now saying, what's next for me? What can I do? And just yesterday, I got this message from somebody who said, I've been working for my parents' business my whole life. And my brothers were supposed to inherit the business. And I was working so hard to prove myself because I wanted the business. And guess what? They got the business, but didn't want it. And she looked at the business, because now she inherited it, and she never realized how much debt that business carried. So they didn't want the business. So what it was she closed it. And now, what's next for me? I worked my whole life in my parents' business. What do I do with my life? I don't want to retire. Do I have to go back to school? What do I do? And for anyone who is stuck right there, what I said to her and I say to you, you have so many skills. The immediate thought is, should I go back to school? Okay. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes you're doing it for yourself. But you have to take the time to figure out who you are, but also say, what do I want to do? And you have value. Don't look at the gaps. When we look at the gaps, we're missing in all kinds of areas. I'm sure you agree. You're never good enough. Never. Okay. But when you say, yes, look at what I learned working in that store. Was it the people I like to communicate with? Was it the bookkeeping? Was the accounting? Obviously not, because then she would have known that the business wasn't in the greatest of shape. But there was other stuff going. So don't look at only the missing links. If you want to do something, start asking. Start seeing what's available. Start joining groups. Start getting interests. And don't just say, I'm stuck. There's nothing I could do. Growth means you've reached that plateau. And now what? But it doesn't mean you're stuck. You're exploring. And now women are in this area of our lives where it's like, it's not the end. It can be a new beginning. If you want to sit on the beach and you want to travel your whole life, by all means do. I'm not saying don't, but what I am saying is if you want to explore yourself or find different things that you could do with your life today, as you were saying, Dawn, the world is open. And, I've been on your podcast, Debra, you've been on mine. We know each other as friends. We never met.
Mm-mm.
And Dawn, you're in Denver. I'm in Canada. How amazing. Okay. And that's the world of opportunity to you, Carrie. And I met you, Lucinda, and I'm so many wonderful people. And all we're doing is we're growing by meeting people. It's all growth. So we get out of our comfort zones. And when you get out of your comfort zone, you don't know what you're going to find. It's awesome. Keep growing.
I can't thank you enough for that quality, um, the quality insights you're sharing, because people have extended their career life
Mm-hmm.
because of technology.
Mm-hmm.
People who felt marginalized now
Mhm.
don't have to wait for a gatekeeper, don't have to
Exactly.
qualify for a spot. They can take the microphone, they can jump on the stage
Mhm.
anytime they want. They can invite their audience that they think would be more relevant. And what people are good at is not always what people find joy in,
Right.
Yes.
right? I mean, some people, you say, well, why aren't you doing that? You're so great at it. But it wasn't fun anymore. And work gets confused with labor and being tedious and really versus, hey, it's if you have joy. I know
Mhm.
Tuesdays. I know Beverly is going to be Tuesdays, right? I know Kelly's going to
Yep.
be on the Thursday, and just having someone that if it was just you and them talking for an hour would more than justify that time. But when you can bring the world into it, you can bring a diverse audience with you. And not only that, but you create value that wouldn't have been there. And what I loved about a few minutes ago is we were all laughing and having a good time. And they say laughter is the best medicine. And if you can do more of it, if you can find people who create more opportunities to laugh, to find enjoyment, it starts to set the tone for the rest of your day.
Mm-hmm.
Also, people's days. So I know people like Carrie and everybody goes through something all the time. If it's not this, it's that. If it's not now, it's when.
Yep.
So during that whole time, you get to create your symphony every day. Who you want
Mm-hmm.
to orchestra? Who do you want to fill the audience with? And all of a sudden, what really comes to be is control. And when you have control over your future, when you're directing it, when you're producing it, when you're writing it, when you're starring it,
Mhm.
how much more could someone ask?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't say, well, they won't let me in, or they won't let me play, or I'm not good enough. Well, who needs them, right? Maybe it's the wrong audience you've been playing to. Play to the audience that loves what you have to offer, and everybody has greatness within it. And it may not be significant to everybody, but it's important to those people. And you'll find in a billion people here enough people who think just like you do and want to learn together and grow together. So, Deborah, this is so exciting. So your new thoughts on all this exchange of ideas?
Well, it's certainly let's say stimulating and challenging to stay on top of the thoughts I want to share back. It's just a great conversation. Don, you mentioned a symphony and maybe not having the right audience in your um, listening to you. When I'm passionate about helping people navigate conflict internally as well as those external conflicts with others. And I oftentimes will use the phrase that, when we're in conflict, again, internally or externally, our brain is playing a cacophony, not a symphony. And so it's really learning on how to orchestrate that and get that back in sync. And this is where doing things, even in small ways, can help bring that sort of order and rhythm and just coming together um, uh, in a symphony. And I know I had the great pleasure of growing up playing in our high school band, but and we were pretty good. We run won a lot of regional competitions, and it was just always such a joy to hear where we started and how we all grew and moved together and really becoming the best in our piece that made the whole production, such a wonderful accomplishment. And so, as Beverly said, don't pay attention to the gaps. Instead, focus on the connections is what I would say. And where am I today? Where do I want to be? And I would like to share a little bit of a personal story. I have to admit, I've done it several times and wasn't really sure I believed in it, the whole thing about vision boards. And but I did one a few years ago before COVID, and I came to the realization that I had spent 40 plus years of my adult life in a certain part of the US and I needed change. And I had a plan, and then COVID hit. And along the way, I realized that because I had envisioned what I saw myself doing and moving forward, that these things were actually becoming real in my life. In fact, I just realized the other day that one of my visions was where I lived and what I looked out over. And I realized, oh my gosh, I actually accomplished that a year and a half ago, and it never hit me that was on my vision board. And I just recently came back to a community where I pop in periodically, and people commented about, you're looking great, you look healthy, you look happy. It's like, well, I'm making some choices and I'm moving towards them, and sometimes they're happening and I don't even realize it. But when you have that vision, and then when you sort of see it in front of you, it's right. I made a decision to move, and I was moved 30 days later. And that's the vision of where I saw myself living. And so this is where the mind, the brain is an interesting thing. And go back to, some of this, things that have been said in the chat box is that, it's mindset. It's how you look at things. And so, the proverbial glass half empty or the glass half full, and again, as a mediator, part of, one of the biggest tools that we use is helping people reframe those negative or not so pleasant things into a neutral or even a positive. What can I learn from this? This is unpleasant. I'm not in a good place, but what can I learn from this, and how do I use that to move myself forward? So I'm back to the moving forward concept again. And Dennis, if you haven't written a book already, and all those quotes are yours, you better get one out there, because those things are great.
Well, I think just the suggestion of that gives people a green light to maybe I should think of that. Or maybe somebody was thinking about this, I'm going to do that. Because it's the doing that's the fun.
Yeah.
Too many people are too results oriented before they even get into the game. And if it's not fun, if it's not pleasurable, if it doesn't bring you joy, it's probably something that's not going to last. And I agree wholeheartedly with Debra is that you're always, or hopefully always, trying to reinvent yourself. Mm-hmm. Knowing you're a work in progress, knowing whatever got you here doesn't have to be what continues to take you where you want to go. And that's where taking a second to reflect, having a vision board, the game is always between you and yourself. No one else can do anything for you that you can't do for yourself. And a lot of people can be a dream stealer. And that's why you have to be conscientious as to who you share your ambition or dream with, because there's a lot of people who, even though they really care about you, don't know how much damage they're doing. Well, you're not tall enough, you're not smart enough, you're not this enough, or hey, you're doing great, you're making a lot of money, you've got everything everybody wants, but they're not walking in your shoes. Right? And you'd hate to think that all you had in life was the same old, and you survived when you could be prospering. And there's fun in even making mistakes if you give yourself some room. Yeah. How many times do you do something and say, that was the dumbest thing, and you start laughing, right? And that makes it okay. Because how long do you want to be down is the big question. And what are you going to do to rise up? And then who do you want to rise up with? Because what I love about our collaboration group is you kind of live vicariously through others, right? If Harvey hits a home run, it's just as good as you hit the home run.
Yeah.
And as you get, I know, talking about symphonies, I've just been, my granddaughter's playing bass My grandson's playing saxophone. They both have different concerts, and just them showing up. They're never gonna, I hate to say that, but unless they really work hard, they're never going to get to that level. But music teaches you something. Sports teaches you something. It's part of a team. It's part of being part of a group. And that gives you bigger identity. And it also gives you less responsibility. I'd rather be one of 10 creating 10% of the benefit than 100% all the time. And at a certain point, if no one's watching, no one's caring, how important is it to you? I mean, how many kids have baseball games and nobody in the family ever shows up? And everybody else shows up for everybody. And you think, well, no one cares. And they probably don't. But then you say, well, why should I? And that's where people make that mistake. And again, young people are impressionable. They haven't learned a lot yet. But as you get older, you should be able to learn from past experiences, other people's experience. And I think at the end of the day, everybody just wants to know you're okay, I'm okay, it's going to be okay. And keep that in your mind. Little things can mean a lot. And sometimes big things are just too hard to swallow. So with that, let's get back to Dennis, who is now going to be writing his book. Agree. Active is so much better than conactive. You get luck and unstruck. Dennis comes back with, you're lucky if you can retire before you're too tired and can still thrive while you're alive. So true. Dennis then also comes back with agree, keep growing while we're in the knowing. Lucinda comes back with beautiful to be with us all. And beautiful is a beautiful word.
Yeah.
To experience. And the other thing, some of the most important things in life are free. Nature is free. Everybody has a piece of the sky and the stars and can find beauty in a blueberry if you want to take the time.
It's true.
What someone had to do to get it to your table. And I think that's the point is start with happiness earlier in the day.
Yeah.
And there was a time I experimented. I said, for a week, how happy could I be? How fast can I get there every day? And sometimes you say, well, it would take a little dessert to put a smile on my face. It would take a little something special for myself. And I think that encourages other people, When you can be happy, when you can be self-sufficient, you take the pressure off of other people. And if someone's really proud of you, that ripples to them because they say, well, if my uncle could do it, or if my older sibling could do it, then maybe I could do it. Dennis comes back with agree, laugh, and the longer you'll last and have a happy blast and not stuck in the past. So true. Christine is in the game. Peace of mind is free and priceless. And, there's days when you feel like $1 million and the next day you feel you got run over by a truck. And I always say, how could the world change so quick on me? And the world did change. It's, attitude. It's having a practice or an exercise every morning. It could be exercise, it could be nutrition. But why not get ready for yourself every day? And then Dennis says, agree, Don, beautiful starts with be happy. Well, we're all on the same wavelength here, and it's so great to be agreeing, then questioning, and letting it go and having a flow. I mean, to Beverly's point, sometimes the idea you had and wanted to express gets optimized by what you just heard. Change with a better idea, and giving yourself the freedom of being in the now, being spontaneous, because it's new for you. I always question people who prepare these long speeches, have things scripted out, and it doesn't allow for any change for the better based on circumstances, based on environment, based on audience. So, Beverly, what's your thoughts on this wonderful audience? It's hard to believe
The audience, of course, is wonderful, really. I want for anyone in the audience that doesn't know what a vision board is, okay, and we're talking about growth, that is a way, if you are a visual person. Now, not everybody's visual and it doesn't work for everybody, but if you are visual, it's just a board, okay? You can use a whiteboard, it's no big deal. And then you can get pictures. Back in the day when we cut out magazine pictures, you can put those magazine pictures on where you want to be, and you can just make a wonderful vision of where you want to be. Today, you can go online and you can pick up vision boards. You don't even have to do it manually. And then you take other visions that you put and put them on the board. The reason for this is we're talking about growth. And when we're sitting and we're saying, you know, if you don't grow, you die, thanks to William Burroughs, it's like, what's next for me? Where do I go? What's next for me? Well, it starts with what Debra just said for herself. Where do I want to go? And you could say, well, this is crazy, right? It's crazy because I can't get there. No, but you know, we have our mind. Our mind is an amazing place and it's extremely powerful. So you have to see where you want to be. It can be absolutely bizarre today. It doesn't matter. But if you have a dream and a wish, it can be there. And if you are going through the motion of where you want to go, who you want to be, it is so incredible. And I've seen, back to my podcast, now I'll bring that in again, Dawn, women, okay, who have hit beyond the wall, like really crazy stuff. And it's all available on any of your platforms, Spotify, Apple, any of them. There's one woman I'm thinking of. She lost everything. She lost her house. She lost her marriage. She lost everything, like zero, nada, nothing. And she said, you know, I never traveled. And I don't really have much money for that. So what she did, okay, this is a woman in her 70s today, and she was in her over 50s then. She said to her children, who are all over America in different places, I am going to walk across America. And you say, what? Are you out of your mind? Okay. And everybody said that. Okay. You crazy? A woman alone. And you know what? She did. She didn't walk across America. She hitchhiked and she did have some money, and friends gave her also, you know, take a plane to here. Anyway, she ended up being at her son's doorstep and said, well, I'm here. And he was newly married and they were going to have a child. And she said, I love children. I'm going to take care of your newly grandchild. And they were able to build a huge company. And she'd already had a company, lost everything. The bottom line is the stories are so bizarre, but they're true. And today she does children's books, but they're really for adults to help their children to grow and thrive through life and have confidence, because what happened for herself was she didn't experience the confidence ever. And she was married young and she didn't go for adventure. So adventure, think about it. What a crazy adventure is that? And I said, weren't you scared? She said, only once. And she says, and I stayed in a hotel that night. But it was like, wow, growth is stretching. So stretch your beliefs, see where you can go. And I don't mean walk across America. Believe me, please don't. But what I want you to do is see where your mind is going to go. Where's it going to take you? And my little tip for today for anyone is, how can you make your day today better than yesterday? And keep doing that, whether you're a visualizer or not. What's one thing you can do? So Carrie, this is for you, okay? What's one thing that you can do? And believe it or not, as you keep stretching, you will grow, okay? Easy peasy, just do it.
Beautiful advice. Hopefully, everybody's taking that to heart. And it's never too late. And that's an important concept. The game isn't over until you choose to say it's over.
Mhm.
And you may be behind, you may not be where you want to be or where everybody else is, but that's just a matter of time because perseverance, patience, having a timeline that fits you. You're the one who decides I've taken too much time here or it's not worth my time. But if it's not this, then what is it? And if it's not now, when is it? And if it's not with the people you're with, who is it? And if you can answer those three questions better, you can move forward. And I think little things done right compound, right? It's like, hey, Beverly's right. Today I'm going to eat a little bit better, right? Tomorrow I'm going to exercise a little bit more. Could be 2 minutes, but it's better than no minutes.
Mhm.
And once you start breaking free, I forget who it was, but they said, how many books do you read? And they actually said, if you want to know who somebody is, ask them what they're reading. And that'll tell you what they're into and what they're about.
Mhm.
And can you do 2 pages a day? Anybody can take 5 minutes and do 2 pages. But once you do two, you might get fascinated by the two you read and decide, hey, I want to continue to read one more. So
Mhm.
set little goals that are accomplishable. And also, change is not the easiest thing because people are
Yeah.
habitual. People will find a way to be comfortably uncomfortable and get through it. And nobody should be uncomfortable if they don't have to. I know when we talk about vision boards, The Secret was a big book and a big
Mm-hmm.
film when it came out. And they had a person did a vision board, packed it away, 5 or 10 years later, unpacked it, and found out they accomplished everything they had on it. Brian Tracy makes a point that the
Mm-hmm.
first of the year, write down the 10 things you want to accomplish, put them in your drawer. Don't even
Mhm.
look and see a year later where you are. So, Deborah, coming up on the final segment here. So, what podcast do you have, and what could you share with everybody for those who want to get to know and work with you better?
Well, thank you, Don, for asking. As I've mentioned a couple times, I really am passionate about helping people navigate through conflict. And so my goal is to change the way we think about conflict, look at it as opportunity rather than adversity and something to avoid. Because there's a lot of really great things that happen when we um, open ourselves up with the courage and the curiosity to explore what is this about? What else could be happening here? And so I do have a podcast twice a month on decoding the conflict mindset. And so I invite thought leaders from around the world and different disciplines to share how they see conflict and how they see conflict showing up in the lives of people they work with. And that's why with Beverly's been on my show and talking about some of the conflicts that are really prevalent for women in the age range that she's working with, and so there's different pockets we can talk about. What's a conflict for someone may not be a conflict for somebody else, but what can I learn from it? And so not only one thing I'd like to just add as a tidbit is not just what can I do today to bring something different into my life, but what can I bring into my life that may make a difference? And again, it's about being courageous and curious to say, and that wasn't part of my thought process, but let's check it out. Maybe there's some new opportunity in there I didn't even realize.
Well, that's great. And curiosity is a great motivator. Just wondering what's around the corner, just wondering what's on the other side of the hill, and being in a discovery mode, and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy things for what they are, not just for what they can make you or what you can make off of it. Because I always find if you put the right attitude towards something, the result will follow.
Hmm.
And too many people put the result in front of the activity, and sometimes it comes out wrong both ways. And give yourself some grace. Give
Hmm.
yourself, be the first to forgive yourself. There's a saying, don't look back unless you want to go back. And if
Hmm.
it's the past, you can't change it. You may be able to reframe it. But the main thing is, what are you doing today? What are you doing now? Because now is all you have. Now is all you have an impact on. Tomorrow never comes. It's always today. So with that, final words, Debra, and then we'll move to Beverly.
Well, again, conflict can help us feel stuck. And we talked about stuckness earlier, and we talked about making small changes to propel and drive our internal motivation. And so I embrace life. Go forth and do great things, my friends, and celebrate what you have today and think about where it can take you tomorrow. I think it's an exciting journey. It's not the destination, it's a journey.
Well, that's beautiful. And before I turn over to Beverly, Dennis has thanks for your talk across America. Dennis is sure cool. Beverly, there's never enough time together. We always find more value and the ability to share more value. So this has been terrific. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, as usual, it was great. It was great having you here again, Debra. It's really fun always. and I just want everybody that's listening to say and feel, if I want to grow, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And to own that, because that means you have to stretch. That means you have to do something different. And so don't fear it. Get community to help you. Ask, join things, read about it. Don't discourage yourself, but take that risk, because when you feel that fear, that means I have to stretch. It's something I have to do. And even if it's bigger than you, you're going to feel so much better that you did it, because it takes a risk to stretch. So do it. And if you want motivation, absolutely take a look at what these women are doing, Aging with Purpose and Passion. It's out there. And also, if you're not ready, but you think, I want to change, I have a quiz. I'm going to leave the quiz in the comments. It's quick, it's easy, and the quiz tells you if you're really ready to change. And then if you're not, don't beat yourself up. Maybe you need time. Maybe you're really not ready. Maybe you'd like to, or maybe it is that vision and you're not there yet, but don't beat yourself yet. You have to really want in your heart of hearts, I want to get there. I want to get to that vision board at the end of the rainbow. I want to get there. So it was great talk, and thank you all. Thank you all for listening, and thank you most, Dawn, for inviting me.
Well, my pleasure, because both of you brought so many gifts that can be unwrapped and be enjoyed for so many people. And that's really the key, is the ripple effect. What we say in the moment is valuable, but this will be continued to be viewed and heard by so many people in the future we'll never get to meet or know, but know that we provided something that had value. And the other element is surprise yourself.
Yeah.
Impress yourself. How many times did you say, I didn't know I was capable of that? I didn't know I'd catch on so quick. And then all of a sudden you say, I am relevant. I am important. The reason why people retire is they don't fit in anymore, or people don't let them fit in. But when you're your own master of your own future, you get to decide what you want to do, when you want to do it, who you want to do it with. And you know that having that control, it's, there's a saying, if it's going to be, it's up to me. With that said,
It's true.
we're going to have to close it out, but that's why we have another show tomorrow. Tomorrow's show will actually be with Rachel and Khan, who's another excellent member of our group. And just so happy to have so many people, so proud to be part of what we're doing. And I want to thank everybody again. Excuse me. So with that said, go off and make this the best day of your life. There's still time, and we'll talk again tomorrow.